welcome you all to the Guildhall, which is an amazing venue, as so many people have already mentioned. And thank you for coming out for this really important occasion. We're celebrating not only Eid, but the positive contribution Muslims are making throughout the United Kingdom.
I'm the president of the National Association of Muslim Police. We're an umbrella body which looks after the welfare of over 2,000 Muslim officers across the country. Our key areas of work are trying to reduce Islamophobia, counter-terrorism, recruitment, retention and progression of Muslim officers.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم له معقبات من بين يديه ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله له معقبات من بين يديه ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم.
I recited the verses in particular where Allah will not change a nation until they change themselves. Allah will not change a nation until they change themselves. And I think this is what we need to keep on reminding ourselves, that as human beings, okay, Ramadan comes and Ramadan goes. The challenge for me and you is to actually go back to Ramadan. You know how you were feeling like a beautiful and saintly person because you've done everything right. I challenge myself and I challenge you. Remember, it's all linked to this verse. Allah will not change a nation until they change themselves. Is to challenge each other to maintain that momentum of Ramadan throughout the year.
Young Muslims in this country face some of the same challenges as their non-Muslim peers. And if they're growing up in areas of deprivation, they can struggle with the very same obstacles of poverty and disadvantage. However, it is a sad fact that in the UK, there are a disproportionately high number of young Muslims growing up in these areas of urban deprivation. And as of course you are aware, there are also a disproportionately high number of young Muslims in prison as compared to the overall prison population. Most of you know more about this than I do. Now, it is inaccurate to see everything through the distorted terrorism prism, which, depending on your standpoint, either depicts all Muslims as violent extremists or all Muslims as the victims of prejudice and Islamophobia. However, it would be wrong to deny that many Muslims do also face specific difficulties which, as well as the previously mentioned problems of poverty and disadvantage, compounded with issues of identity and belonging often associated with being part of a minority group, can lead some Muslims here to seriously underperform, to go on the defensive, or worse, on the offensive. Unfortunately, if you ask some people here what they think of the Muslim contribution to the UK, the answer might range from polite confusion to chicken tikka masala to what contribution? I don't call terrorism much of a contribution. Ignorance, stereotypes, and negative stereotypes abound, and they can result in prejudice and real unpleasantness for law-abiding British Muslims, which the vast majority definitely are. Although, as has been admitted, there are some genuine problems faced and caused by Muslims, Muslims are, without question, working hard and making a massive and very positive contribution to this country at all levels and in all sorts of ways.
These brave people, and there are people here this evening who've joined the police service. And why is that so important? It's so important because we police by consent. The police, as good as they are, can't police without us cooperating, giving them intelligence, reporting crime if we're victims, coming forward and give evidence. It gives confidence that the system works. And these men and women, some of them staff officers, some of them police officers, some of them specials, volunteered to change the way people think about the faith of Islam, but to change the way British Muslims think about police officers. Imagine if you are the police officer who goes to the victim of burglary who's a non-Muslim, and you're the first Muslim they've met and you are there to help them. Imagine if you're on the end of a 999 call and giving comfort and solace to the victim of crime and they discover you are a Muslim, the impact you have on that person's perception of Islam. Look, not all of us can be Mo Farah. Not all of us can win 2 gold medals, win 2 world championships and change the way people perceive asylum seekers, Muslims and black people. But you can make a change in this country by small things you do. So I was here, keen to come here this evening to pay tribute to the National Association of Muslim Police Officers. You're doing a fantastic job, Asif, you and the team. Please carry on doing the fantastic job. There is still a role for you in the next few years. I look forward to a time when we will not need to have an association of Muslim police officers, an association of black police officers, an association to do with female police officers, because everyone will be treated equally and fairly. Until that happens, these guys have a huge role to play, and I pay tribute to you.
It's a great honour to welcome you to this ancient Guildhall on a truly historic evening. This is a place that speaks of London's and England's past, but also of the rich diversity of this city and our country today, and one to which the Muslim community, as one of the largest and most valued of Britain's faith communities, belongs. And where better to be than in London, which 40% of England's Muslims call their home. London, with a proud record of respect, of valuing diversity, of sheltering those seeking refuge from religious and political tyranny, whether they are Christian or Jewish or Muslim. Over the centuries, London has become a world city of 270 nationalities and 300 languages. And where better than in the city of London itself, the ancient heart of the metropolis of London. This is famously a city of church spires, of the elegance of Christopher Wren's vision for rebuilding London after the Great Fire of 1666. But it was an 18th century Lord Mayor, John Wilkes, who was a predecessor of mine and indeed of our own Chamberlain, who's here this evening, who best captured the character of London in our own time. He wanted to see, in 1780, across London's skyline, rising in the neighbourhood of a Christian cathedral near its Gothic towers, the minaret of a Turkish mosque, a Chinese pagoda, and a Jewish synagogue, 230 years ago. And earlier even than Wilkes, we see Islam's place at the very heart of the city. For in an engraving by the great chronicler of early modern life, Wenceslas Hollar, which depicts the royal exchange in the middle of the 17th century, we see a group of Arabic and Turkey merchants and traders, merchants who had made London their headquarters and their home. That was 100 years earlier still. And that is a tribute to London's historic open culture, but it is a tribute as well to London's open markets and a commitment to free trade. values and markets that we very much prize today, not least as a Western centre for Sharia-compliant finance. A new market for London, but financial instruments that have contributed to the finance for iconic symbols of modern London, such as the Shard. Are there tensions between faiths and communities? Yes, of course there are. But extremism and aggression and barriers in all communities can and will be broken down by dialogue and by fostering understanding, with the city itself home to the St Ethelburger Centre for Reconciliation and Peace in Bishopsgate, a centre based in a building itself destroyed by extremists, but which has now risen anew to nurture union and accord. That understanding between faiths is fostered by the sheer ordinary decency and goodness of the vast majority of our fellow citizens, who value one another and who want to live together in harmony. We have much to be proud of. There is still much we can do.
I think the events can be very useful for bringing people together and discussing and understanding the issues that are out there. So we, the City of London Corporation, are very positive to this kind of event, and we will certainly support more of them, because anything that brings people together, have a very good discussion around real issues, real topics, that's good.